It's time for Cutting Edge Consciousness with Freeman Michaels and Barnet Bain. Thought-provoking discussions and bold ideas from the edge of possibility.
And welcome to Cutting Edge Consciousness. Freeman Michaels here.
With Barnet Bain.
Good moment.
Yeah, you're stepping on my lines.
No,
I like that. It was like a two-part
unison.
harmony that was so good.
No, I was joining you in the
Yeah,
good
it had
moment.
like a Bee Gees quality, didn't it?
The Bee Gees. Barnet loves the Bee Gees.
I
I didn't
did.
know Barnet. I
You
was
had no
over
idea?
for dinner, and I put on Pandora and picked the Bee Gees because that was one of the options as a station. And who knew?
Well, you did the Bee Gees ABBA combo.
Well,
the twofer.
ABBA unfortunately just got layered in. That was unfortunate.
You
But
water-
most of the songs
I was
were
Saturday
great.
Night Fevering. And
Saturday
then you,
Fever
and
was
then you
fun.
Waterlooed me right in the middle.
No, I didn't do that. Pandora did that. You should write a
Yeah,
letter.
we danced. Well,
Well-
we didn't dance. I just,
Dance is
we
an
didn't dance,
exaggeration,
but
we
Sandy
wiggled.
and I danced. Well, I had like yeah.
It was beautiful.
Your Freeman's wife instructed me
That's right.
on how it's done in the hood, the Cholo version.
The cello dance.
And so
You don't move your feet at all.
You do
just
not
do this
move
kind
your
of
feet
wiggle
because
at the top,
I,
which was great, actually. I
I
thought
have
that
a
was
habit of like moving way too many things, and none of them have any rhythm. They all just seem to be. It's like I used to have a car that had that. It had no shocks, it had no springs, and everything. So
You're
that's how
Carmagia.
my Carmagia.
That's
exactly.
it.
I danced
I
like
now
a
know
1958 Carmagia.
I now know the analogy.
But Jazz had me dancing. She said, "Do not move your feet, do not move your arms. Clasp your arms and then bring them, clasp them over your chest so that you look very sincere.
That's right. That was
And
for the
then-
love song. That was when the love
And then
song was on.
just sway gently, transferring your weight from
That's
left
it.
to right,
That's
and then
it.
look out of the corner of your eye like you have a secret."
That's
And-
right. Now your wife is totally in love with you again.
She
and
is fantastic.
We're right back
Yeah.
to 1974.
And every once in a while, I
and
bust loose, and she says that is not a recipe for the next 34 years of marital bliss. Speaking of marital bliss
Let's talk about marital bliss.
and family,
Yep.
my sister's on.
Yeah, soul
You didn't-
sister.
You didn't know this, but she not only is she my soul sister, but we share a name. I'm not going to go there, but I'm just going to plant that as a seed of curiosity for our listeners. Anybody that can figure out what I'm referring to sends in, they win a prize.
Barnett loves to give away prizes.
I do. I love to give away. You figure that out. You have dinner with Freeman.
The show we were on years ago, the show we were on before us, Coach used to give away like pizzas or something.
I never
And-
got one pizza.
Well, you can't. If you work for the station, you don't
Get anything,
qualify.
right? So, there's my
Nice.
daughter.
There's
my daughter.
Yeah, it's a
Hi,
Bee
honey.
Gees song.
I should have just. Hi, hon. It's my daughter. So, hey, honey, I'm on the radio right now, so I can't speak to you. Say hi. Hi, everybody. So I'll call you back. That was Sophie.
There's a sign on the way into the studio that says, "Please turn off your cell phones." And Barnett just
You know what? I
never,
just
never
never
gets
read
the
that.
message.
I thought it was a Braille message.
Arielle, welcome to the show.
Hey, you guys, how are
Come
you?
I don't hear it.
It's a mess. It's a mess around here.
That's why.
I don't know what we're doing. It's frantic and crazy. But we're talking about marriage and long-term relationships and fostering and rekindling and all
but one
this good
sec, this is
stuff.
an important thing for the 2 or 3 of our listeners who don't know who Arielle Ford is. Arielle has, for 25 years, she has been one of the primary promoters of consciousness and spirituality in every conceivable form of media, and she has she's a speaker and an author and a relationship expert. She's the author of The Soulmate Secret. She is the author of Wabi Sabi Love.
Love that title.
I love that title, and I love Arielle Ford. And she also lives with my brother, Brian Hilliard, in La Jolla, California. And we have her on the air with us today on Cutting Edge Consciousness. Hi, hon.
Hi, you guys.
It's so good to have you with us.
I'm always happy to be with you two. How's life?
So good. Now, where were you?
We're working on Barnett's dance moves. What was so brilliant, Arielle, is the beauty in exposing our awkwardness and loving each other's awkwardness and that is one of the things about Barnett and Sandy's relationship, Jasmine and mine. Just the whole evening in the conversation, Jasmine and I were talking very frankly, and we do on the live show here when we do it once a year at New Year's, about the awkwardness. And there's a kind of almost celebrating of, the imperfections in the person we've chosen to be with. And that's where I want to kind of jump off from, because I know that you can appreciate this conversation.
Well, the truth is we all just want to be loved for exactly who we are.
Mm-hmm.
And if we were able to be perfect, which of course we're not, nobody would love us, because who wants to be with somebody who's perfect?
Mm-hmm.
So when we can love and appreciate the weird, quirky, strange, even annoying things about ourselves, and especially our mates, life gets more interesting and more fun, and we can be more playful. But society has really brainwashed us to think we have to seek perfection, that we have to be perfect, our mates, our kids. HGTV wants our homes to be perfect. And all of this striving for perfection leaves us in this constant state of disappointment and upset and frustration, because it's just not possible.
It's great for the gym business, though.
Well, it's great for any scarcity selling. Anything that you want to sell people, if you can convince them they're not good enough, they'll buy it.
Yeah, right? And it's never going to happen. I think the Persians really have it figured out. The guys who make those beautiful Persian rugs,
Mm-hmm.
they purposely make mistakes when they're putting those rugs together, because their belief is only God is perfect.
I think that this is a level of maturity that collectively we haven't arrived at. But thank goodness, Arielle, for people like you who can help people navigate the tyranny of this, one size fits all, here's what it's supposed to look like, thought process, belief structure, whatever the language is, that binds us to dissatisfaction. I mean, it's built in that we're going to be dissatisfied.
I know, Arielle, I know you for a long time, and I also have had the benefit of watching your gorgeous relationship for a long time. And one of the things I noticed is that you do walk this talk and dance this talk. And so while you are very beautiful inside and outside, you one of the shining things about how you demonstrate loving and relating, being in a relationship, is that you do actively seek out the beauty in others, in your relationship and in other people. So there is a shift that is a fundamental developmental maturity that has to do with obsessively seeking to beautify ourselves, just having a healthy relationship with self-beauty, and turning that energy toward finding beauty outside and in others, and
especially in our partner.
And shining light on it.
That's really the essence of the Japanese aesthetic of wabi-sabi. So wabi-sabi, let's say the Japanese had this big Ming vase, had a long crooked crack down the middle of it. They would take this broken vase, they would put it on a pedestal, and then they would shine a spotlight on the crack and really honor this crack and see the beauty in the crack. And we're all cracked, so if we can start to love our cracks and make fun of them and have fun with them and teach our partners to have fun with them. It's like Brian and I have this ongoing thing about what a slob I am. Now, until I met Brian, I never really considered myself a slob.
You had that one kind of tucked in, didn't you, Arielle?
I just wasn't aware, but where he comes
But
from,
Bri's very neat.
leaving crumbs around the toaster and leaving things in the dish in the sink all the time shows up as slobs. He'll tell you that I'm sloppier than a room full of third graders.
Oh my goodness, that's great.
Yeah, but now it's just this funny thing that we do, and for the first couple of years of our marriage, he was always asking me to clean up. Finally, one day he said to me, I figured something out. you've got a blind spot when it comes to this stuff. I'm the one that it bothers, so I'm just going to clean up after you. And that's what he does. He cleans up after me.
And without resentment and without via a choice, right?
Oh, yeah, no, it's not like, oh my God, I have to clean up after her.
He's not
It's
martyred
like,
about it.
He laughs. He's like, oh, I can tell Arielle's been in this room.
Or maybe even I get to clean up after the woman I love as an expression of, my care for her, or maybe just as an expression of my obsessive compulsive, ness. But either or, it's all good, right?
I got to tell you a funny story. I was in Sun Valley a couple of weeks ago at this wellness festival, and I had a room full of people who wanted to know about wabi-sabi love, so I put them into small groups. And the assignment was pick one thing that your mate does that makes you crazy, totally out of your mind crazy, that no matter how many times you've complained about it, it never gets fixed. So they were in groups of 3, and then the other 2 people in the group had to help you brainstorm a wabi-sabi solution to your problem. So when it was over, I asked, does anybody have something to share? And this woman, Sharon, stands up and she says, yes. She says, my husband, Garth, works out of state 2 weeks of every month. And when he's out of state, I live in my house, and it's spotless, and it's clean, and I just love it. But the 2 weeks that he's home, everything gets messed up, and it's dirty and chaotic, and he just makes a mess of everything, and it makes me crazy. He said, but I have this great group here. These 2 people really helped me. One of them said to me, Sharon, do you have a dog? Yes, I have a dog. Does your dog shed? Yes, my dog sheds. What do you do when the dog sheds? I vacuum up after him. Do you still love your dog? Yes, of course I love my dog. Okay, Sharon, your husband is shedding. And with that, it changed everything. It's like, if I can love my dog because he sheds, that's just what he does, why can't I just love my husband because he's a slob? That's just who he is.
Well, so there's a couple really important threads here. And one is the ability to choose your perception or how you want to approach this in service to something, right? Because
that's exactly it.
So often we're committed to the small story, and we can't get out from under that small story to see that there might be interpretations that are in support of something, but the something, and I'm cheating because I kind of know your work, is you got to have vision. Most couples don't have vision. Most people don't have vision, and thereby they're bound to that small story because there's no larger frame, context to live into. So I want to do this. We got to take a quick break. When we get back, I want to get into the vision piece because that is the keys to the kingdom. And we'll do that after we take a break here on Cutting Edge Consciousness. Stay with us.
Welcome back to Cutting Edge Consciousness, thought-provoking discussions and bold ideas from the edge of possibility.
Hey, welcome back. This is Barnett. I'm here with Freeman and our guest, Arielle Ford of the Soulmate Secret. So if there's any of you out there who are hungry, longing, yearning, learning for love, you are tuned into the right spot because we have the Soulmate Secret secret. And you're going to hear the secret right now. So listen up. Pull over right now. Pull over out of traffic.
I kind of queued this up by saying that the context that people hold the relationship in, again, comes from this scarcity of how it ought to look, which binds us to limitation. But there's a way to expand that and begin to shift perception consciously. And that's where I'd like you, Arielle, to pick it up.
Yeah, it's about changing your story because your partner is behaving in a way because that's how they were raised, So whether it's as silly as, how they're squeezing.
I was raised by wolves.
Huh?
I was raised by wolves.
Lots of crumbs in Barnett's kitchen if you haven't been there in a while.
I actually haven't, but I'll go check it out. But yeah, it's just about changing the story. So if you've noticed that you've been bitching, moaning, complaining, whining, yelling, shouting, trying to get your partner to change something, and it never changes, that's because it's not their problem, it's your problem. You're the one who doesn't like it. You're the one who's made up the story that they're doing it bad or wrong. So what's the new empowering story you could make up about the behavior that would have it be not a problem anymore? And this requires some creativity. It requires being an emotionally mature adult, being willing to take personal responsibility for your own happiness. Now, I'm not talking about things like, abuse or addiction or bad behavior. I'm just talking about the everyday annoyances, and Dr. John Gottman, who's one of the world's leading researchers on marriage, has found that every single couple has at least 9 irreconcilable differences, things that you're never going to agree on ever. So knowing that, you should really figure out how to master this wabi-sabi love stuff, because otherwise you're going to be in this constant state of disbelief and upset, like, oh my God, I can't believe they're doing it again.
So 9. I can't wait. Don't give us all 9, but give us 2.
Money and sex.
Yeah, that's right. That's true. It's okay. You're
well,
2 for 2. Give us 3.
So let me go back to the context wherein we're holding this. Again, and maybe this is, for Jasmine and I, we have a sense of what we want to create in our love life and how we want to relate to money. And it doesn't mean that's the way we do relate to money. It's that we aspire to relate to it in a particular way, which changes our decision making, right? That's a critical component, at least for us, is that we understand what you were just saying, Arielle, that there's the way that we were raised, there's beliefs that we grew up with, and there's, patterns, behaviors, thinking, so forth. Those are going to be like a default setting, and things are going to self-organize to those. And even if I change partners, been in a couple marriages, been in a couple serious relationships, beyond the marriage, and recognize that my themes are consistent, right?
Yeah.
And without a sense of what I want to create, that for Jasmine and I, that we both organize towards, we're going to default. And so there is something really powerful in having a sense of what we want to create on the other side of the small story and the pattern behavior.
Which is why the thing that we discovered that worked for us is that we make all our big choices and decisions, not what does Arielle want or what does Brian want, but what is best for the relationship, what most serves us as a couple. So Brian grew up in a wealthy home where money was never an issue, and he was the youngest, so he had no money issues at all. I grew up in a very poor home where money was the biggest issue and had all kinds of poverty consciousness. And early on, there was just nothing but tension around money because he's a spender, I'm a saver. Now, over 17 years, I've worked on my issues. I now know that I live in an abundant universe. I'm never going to be broke. And Brian actually enjoys shopping sales now. He'd always paid retail his whole life till he met me. So we've grown in that way together. But it took real effort and energy. He'd never met anybody like me who was so afraid of becoming a bag lady, right?
Well, he is a really special human being. One of the things that I have learned from him is I'm aware that your decision making responds first to the needs and the support of the relationship, and then I know from Brian that his second resort is a consideration of your needs, and he has shared with me that your second consideration ideally is a consideration of his needs. And so, there's this tendency to want to say, well, what about me? But then in that context, you can rely that your interests are being served by your mate. And then the third level of decision-making is for the self. So first for the relationship, and then for the other, and then for the self. And if it's all firing great, and I know over 17 years, at least from sleeping in your guest room, it looks like it's firing great.
Oh, it's awesome, because we just are so living in bliss most of the time, because even when we're disagreeing, we know how grateful and lucky we are to have grown this way together, and this is our first priority. So it's just a conscious decision, I know that I'm happiest when he's happy, but it's not codependent, it's interdependent.
That's a huge distinction.
It's a huge distinction. And this element that Barnett was talking about, holding the other person in your consciousness, this consideration, I love it. It's interesting because on the vision that Jasmine and I have, one of the items is we hold the other person in our consciousness when making decisions that are going to affect the other person, either about money. We have one that has to do with how we kind of handle financial decisions, that we consider the other person, that we create a conversation around it, similar to what you were talking about. And it isn't to say that I want to take on, for example, Jasmine's, beliefs that are limiting. I just want to honor that that's in part how she views the world. And so I may not have that issue. I have my own. So I'm rushing ahead with the way I see it, and it doesn't honor her. So there's something about really coming together in this gracious way where our commitment is to honoring the other person and where they're at, even if where they're at is again bound by some limitations. That's okay.
Yeah, I mean we all are limited, and that's really it's about celebrating what others would call limitation.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's all a per thing.
Some of the things I most appreciate about Brian is some of his quirkiest habits. That's what makes him him.
Okay. So share. We don't need all 9.
That's right.
Just give us one quirky habit.
Oh, it's just silly stuff. Like, we'll get in the car to go somewhere, and I can almost count the seconds till I see his hand reach back to see if his wallet's in his pocket.
That's great.
And that's an expression of like forgetfulness.
I'm gonna do that next time I'm in the car with him. I'm gonna count the seconds.
Yeah, no, because he's lost his wallet a few times, so it's become sort of this habit.
Oh my
And then
goodness.
when I was observing his mother last time she was visiting us, I noticed over the afternoon 3 or 4 times she went hunting for her wallet.
Well, this is now that's something you've tripped on that is really interesting, because as much as I would like to say I'm not like my parents, when we're around my parents, my wife points out that I do that too. I have this whole thing of like, I'm not like that. We're around them. I'm like, oh, maybe I am.
Apples and trees.
Boy.
So I love that, having shared this. Thank you for sharing that with our listeners about Bri. But I want our listeners to have an understanding of who this guy is.
Oh.
So this is a guy, when you go walking with this man, every dog in the neighborhood comes running to him with love. He knows them all. They know him all. And frankly, it's not only dogs. You go walking with him, he knows everyone, and everyone knows him. Every single kind of human being knows and responds and loves this guy. So these things don't happen in a vacuum. You don't be one way and then come into the home and into the relationship and be somebody else. So they are windows into the nature of the relationship and what a relationship is. So
well, Brian believes that his purpose for being on the planet at this time is to make sure that everybody he comes in contact with has the experience of being loved.
Yeah.
And if we can, this is a soulmate secret, by the way, so everyone listen up. If we can go into commit to making the other, the significant other of our relationship, not only our primary relationship, but all relationships. If we can make a commitment to allowing them to feel seen and heard, and that they matter and understood and unjudged in the way that Brian Hilliard does, then your relationships will thrive. Can't get a better...
I have a question for you, Arielle, because I know that part of what you were looking for, because the last time you were on the show, you talked about how you really wanted someone who was generous, of heart, giving, and Brian is like the poster child for this, which I get. And this thing of asking for something and then manifesting it. And then watching how, and I don't know, maybe I'm projecting this onto you, but even some of Jasmine's positive qualities, because they don't align with some of my, again, small story stuff, I watch myself, it kind of grate on me, right? So I'm curious. I mean, I know you guys work through it, and I know you have a beautiful relationship. I get that. But, you know, be careful what you wish for. So is there a piece?
I understand, because I would say that Brian is a giver and I'm a taker. So sometimes he's so thinking about other people first that it does get annoying. You know, it's kind of like, you know, or he'll, you know, or I can be a little bottom line with people, and sort of like, you always know what I'm thinking. You know, I'm not a diplomat. I'm not really good at sort of queuing things up. You know, I'll just say what's on my mind. And sometimes, you know, he'll sort of say, you know, well, you could have said that a little nicer, a little easier to somebody. But yeah, I understand that. So, you know, somebody who's so nice and so considerate can at times be annoying for me.
Yeah. But this is great. I mean, this is the growing together, because I think, you know, look, there's a side of drawing in your missing piece, right, that has a function to it. It also has a dysfunction to it, but there's both sides, right? So if you know, what I first fell in love with about my wife then became an annoyance at a point. And then, you know, my own resistance to what I really, really wanted, which was more of this quality that my wife possesses, similar to what you're talking about with Brian, then becomes sort of my growth edge, you know. And then I look at the partnership in more of this sacred sense that we're really working some stuff out. And thank God I got a great partner, you know, to do the work with.
Yeah, it's that old mirror of relationship shit.
Yeah, that's a big secret. It's an inside job. You're seeing it mirrored back and being triggered, and learning to respond to it and to have some compassion about it, and to see the beauty in the what looks like the faults. See the beauty. And
dance.
What are some of the exciting things that you're doing aside from going to Europe in a few days? And I know that you have this incredible a resource that I hope that many of our listeners will check out, the Soulmate Secret. Let's hear a little bit about what's going on with that.
I, once a year, do a 7-week Soulmate Secret online course, which will be coming up later this summer. But in the meantime, if you're looking to manifest love, on my website, I have a bunch of free tools.
Free stuff!
We love free stuff.
Yeah, you just go to soulmatesecret.com, and there's a tab called Free Stuff.
Wow. Wow.
It's really easy. And just go to Free Stuff, because part of manifestation, which most people didn't get to learn from the movie The Secret, is being able to feel in every cell of your body that what you're asking for is already yours. It's the emotional component. So I invented these things that I call feelingization, because visualizations only happen in your head, but manifesting comes from your heart. So there's a bunch of free feelingizations at soulmatesecret.com under the tab Free Stuff.
So go and get your free stuff and then report back to us so we know how you're doing with it. Yeah. And if you get a mate, you win a prize.
If you can grow the relationship, we got to give it a little length of time.
Listen, I know a lot of folks who have created incredible relationships.
Oh no!
As a result of the Soulmate Secret.
No, I'm totally
growing and deepening and growing their current relationship.
Yeah, because that's the second part of the puzzle. Is that yes, it's one thing to find someone, but you know, foundationally, this method that you teach, Arielle, of finding a person, obviously in your own experience, it's reflected. But the second part of that is the growing.
It's it's gaining the weight and then keeping it on.
Here's the last thing I want to say. I did a free 5-part video series on Wabi Sabi Love, and you can get it. It's kind of a long URL, but it's wabisabilove.com/gift. wabisabilove.com.
Free stuff.
Gift. So it's a free 5-part video series that'll show you how to do it.
You can also get this by, this information will be on our Cutting Edge Consciousness site. And so if anybody missed it here, don't panic. You can listen to the podcast
I'll put the link in.
Or you can get it off our site.
Yep. Hey, listen, Arielle, thanks so much for hanging with us.
Anytime. I love talking to you guys.
We love having you.
And Barnett, I can't wait. I'll see you in Lit Croatia.
Oh, we're going to party.
We are.
Give a big hug to Bri and to the kittens, and I will see you in a couple of weeks.
Okay. All
Love
right.
you.
And
Bye.
for those of you listening, stay tuned because Barnett and I will be right back after these messages to wrap things up here on Cutting Edge Consciousness.
Welcome back to Cutting Edge Consciousness, thought-provoking discussions and bold ideas from the edge of possibility.
And welcome back to Cutting Edge Consciousness. Freeman Michaels here with Barnet Bain. Just got done with our friend Arielle Ford. I love Brian because he really is. I mean, he's one of the friendliest human beings I've ever met in my life. He is just
He's
incredibly
amazing.
open-hearted and kind and loving and warm and so forth and so on.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
She drew in a wonderful, wonderful soulmate.
Well, he did pretty good, too.
Yeah, no, she's
Yeah.
fantastic as well. So I guess where I want to pick up is sort of where we left off with Arielle, is that it's one thing to sort of create the relationship. The relationship, though, that's going to be the foundation for a growth process. It's not like, again, I think that whole thing of Mr. Right, Mrs. Right, Mrs. Right for me was someone who was willing to hang in a relationship and, take ownership and grow together, versus someone who is going to magically appear and make me, happy forever. That is the big, I know you've referred to it as a developmental thing, that there's a stage where it's very natural to go through a fantasy of Mrs. Right and so forth. I guess what I see,
And it's normal and it's healthy.
I get it. but
Teenagers, adolescents.
here's the challenge. So you're in the film business. So many films reflect back the adolescent fantasy. And there's a lack of growing up. There's some wonderful films that are about mature relationships. A few. Not so many, though.
True.
That's
and your point.
no, that's
No,
it.
but you're
So,
right. It's
so
true.
look, I mean, part of I hope the people listening to this show are at the developmental stage where they're not looking for the fantasy and they're willing to, draw in someone who's going to challenge them and support them in their growth and vice versa.
Well, a marriage is, it certainly can be an environment for a accelerated growth of spirituality and consciousness. I mean, you want to really have your stuff come up
Yeah.
in a place that ideally is safe enough and trusting enough to work things through.
That's it.
Learn how to develop a vulnerability before we trot it out into the big tent. To learn how to be open and frank and vulnerable and expressive, and how to share our emotional lives, to show our weaknesses, to be strong enough to show our frailties with another. To do that inside of marriage or any committed relationship is the most incredible gift.
Part of what and you represent for me as a friend, because we've had our moments where we had friction, but what I've always known about our friendship is you're not going to leave. Like, you'll stay in the fire with me and take ownership for what part is yours, because I'm just a mirror for you and vice versa. And that's a really beautiful gift, right? So I want friends around me, and I want my spouse to be people who can hang in there with me and can love me with all of my rough edges. That is a big growing up for me personally, to draw in those kind of people and to stay in a relationship with those kind of people, because there is this part of me that wants to dismiss and, say, well, throw people away. And I am grateful for the wisdom, that part of me, that draws in people who are going to bring me to my growth edge, who are going to stay in a relationship with me, versus going about playing out that adolescent fantasy, not just in my love relationship, but in all my relationships, that I've done that, where people become disposable, and it's a kind of immaturity that has a narcissism to it, right? There's a lack of wisdom in it. And that's the beauty of this conversation, is that there's another level of relating that isn't about making nice. It's about being real and hanging in there and having long-term relationships with people, which is so rewarding. We're so quick. I see reflected how quick in the culture we are to throw people away. That reflects a part of me. But the more mature is less represented in the collective experience, at least from the vantage point I'm looking at it.
Well, we see, I know that I see reinforced at all times my own consciousness.
That's right.
And so I would not be able to see a world full of Jesus Christs. I couldn't handle it. I don't have the calibrations.
Yeah.
So there I have pods of people that I love and who I know love me. And when I'm around there, I feel a degree of love and flow, of being seen, of being heard, of being known, of being accepted. And I, in turn, am willing to see and support other people and reduce their fear of loss or abandonment or humiliation or loneliness. There's a rapport there. And I get so inundated or I reach a point of inundation where I can't really handle that much love anymore. And then I come away and I integrate it and I learn more. And so, over time, this has been a practice now for several years, but over time, the world, I do start to see more love in the world, in the world. The world is always mirroring to me where I have been, not where I am.
Can I come back to the vision piece? Because this is an important piece for me. So the focus is on where I'm going, not so much where I've been. The world I create, what I envision for my wife, what I envision for my relationship, what I envision for you, Barnet, the ability to hold something as a possibility for something great and understand along the way that my experience will organize around, again, this small story and this struggle and so forth. Until it doesn't, because I'm open to the day when that shifts and we're not doing that anymore. I'm cool with that. But in my experience to date, it's this, my work is to constantly be organizing towards a more expansive possibility, noting that a lot of me is still resistant to that because that's what the mirror reflects, right? When I look up and I see the adolescent fantasy.
The mirror is reflecting the past.
The mirror is reflecting the past. That point is so powerful.
The mirror is not reflecting where I am. So if I look in the mirror and I say, oh, I'm so disappointed because it's not happening to me. I have dreamed and visioned. I have become very familiar with some of my knee-jerk tendencies to how I respond to life. Automatic no, or automatic I'm playing small, or automatic pretending I am more capable than I am, and all the different kind of strategies that we have for life. I'm aware of them, and I am not operating there, and I am holding a vision that you're speaking about for myself, and then I look and how come my life's not different? How come my life's not different? And I deflate. Well, your life's not different because it's what's being reflected at is the past. Hang on. Stay with it. Stay with it. And stay with it because life is reflecting what was, not the frequency that you are now. We live in space-time.
Yeah.
When we don't live in space-time every night, you have a thought, I vision Friday. It's Friday, but in space-time, you vision Friday, you have to go through Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
That's right.
So
that's right.
We are so prone. And me, listen, I'm often the first to surrender my power.
Yeah.
Then this is where people get sometimes triggered by, when we use this word, it's an illusion. I talk to myself on this show. I'm working out my own thing.
That's right.
So, I'm interested in, there are times in my work where I'm interested in communicating ideas to a wider palette of people who right now, on this show, I'm interested in my cutting edge, and I hope that people aren't bored with it.
Yeah.
Or triggered by it. Sometimes we get letters, you're wrong. Fine. I'm working out my stuff. And I do get disheartened or feel
Can I say
triggered
something about
by
that?
the mirror.
Yeah, and the mirror also is those letters. So look, it's very interesting because I've said this before that I'm in this conversation. That is my conversation. It's just what you said. It's about me. But I also watch all the people in my own little peanut gallery that I hear from, and they're me. And I totally know that I'm drawing on all the people who want to meet me wherever I'm at. I hope that my willingness to do this publicly with you is of service, because I really want that to be true. And it's what I'm doing anyhow. So that that comes along and we go. But the organizing back to something powerful and generous and creative that's on the other side of what I can see right now. It's just over there somewhere, and I'm going for it without any definite proof that it's there. I mean, it's this kind of, there's a commitment to something that's going to expand me. And maybe that's what faith is.
Well, it requires some surrender.
Yeah.
So we have like the words like faith for me are they're very fraught because there are so many connotations and associations from the past. So faith and these things are very, very. But when I am, even vision, when I am in the moment, good moment, and appreciative and grateful and aware of what's going on with myself and grateful for my life and my health, for my friends, for the beauty of my surroundings, when I allow myself to feel in my body the aliveness of that gratitude. At the same time, gratitude for me is not just being thankful. It is that plus a surrender. I surrender. I am not married. I have a vision, yes, but I'm not married. I'm not in control. I'm not married to it. I am in the gratitude, and I surrender how life's going to unfold. I am now reliant on the energy itself to sustain me, not stories. So there is the thankfulness in my body. There's the surrender. And then it's like bridge. The whole thing is forged together, welded together with appreciation for the understanding of my own growth of consciousness from where I began as a boy to who the man that I am today, for what I know about what it is to be human. I am so moved by that. It's been all gifted. And now I'm grateful.
Right. That's beautiful.
So from this place, this is a causative energy. I don't need to do vision boards. That's fine. It's developmental.
Yeah.
This is a causative energy. And if I was so inclined to do a vision board, and maybe I'll go home and do one. This married to the gratitude. That's the big. I used to remember this movie, The Guns of Navarone. You do, Spence, right?
I love that movie.
Gigantic. So these are like the big guns of Navarone. You become present in the moment with your gratitude as a full-bodied experience and a surrender.
Yeah. I don't want to dismiss, though, the tools that get us there. So, yes, what I love that Arielle brought up is the idea that vision has to be felt. And it has to be felt in a ritualistic way, so it becomes more and more embodied, more and more familiar. That's a really valuable tool. And then the upgrade of that is the understanding that these energies or these frequencies, they go somewhere, the generative ones, the ones that are going to take us beyond where we've been, the ones that we can throw out and then chase after and know that it's going to take us on a wild ride, somewhere. The familiarity of those happens in stages. Right. And I think early on, or not even early on, because you're right, I may run home and do a vision board because it's time. There's something beyond my present ability, and I want to play with this tool that I've used in the past to get some feeling behind this trajectory. Right. That's it. So I just wanted to throw that in. But everything you said, Barnet, is beautiful. And the idea that, when you marvel at this crazy ride that will call your life from a little boy to now, and know that that is just this whole trajectory of growth and possibility is just getting thrown out for the next wave and the next wave, and it's all a gift. That is a beautiful perspective to come at life.
I think we've come to the end of Or have we?
Yeah, we're close.
We are. I'm not sure.
You have about a minute and 19 seconds, Barnett.
Oh, fantastic.
Let's go.
Fantastic.
What are you going to say to me in 19 seconds that's going to make it all make sense? Go.
All makes sense.
In 1 minute.
It'll never. I've stopped looking to make sense.
That's really good. That is a great response. That is really good.
I've stopped looking to make sense.
That is good.
You know, it reminds me of these paradoxes of, well, no, you know, that doesn't make sense. If I don't behave this way, then they're, you know, if I don't double down on my control, the world is a scary place. Mm-hmm. Again, you know, you call it the small story. I understand that. I like it as a collection of behaviors that I continuously trot out and that I live inside. And inside those behaviors, that makes sense.
Right.
And there is no possibility of anything outside of those behaviors. Because they self-select. They only reinforce themselves. So there is no logical response. You can't fight these things. You can't argue with these things. It just requires, you can't make sense of these things. They will never make sense. You just step out.
But you're less identified with those behaviors because there's an expanding self that can hold all those behaviors but is still thrown forward, and it's a gift, and it's all going to play out beautifully because we not have faith, because we just are going there. That's it for today. So we've left some things kind of loose, which we like, because then you can tune in next week and we'll try to figure out what the heck we said this week. For this week, however, we want to thank you for tuning in, invite you back. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.